What's up guys and girls? Raj here, back with another video. So you want to switch your career to DevOps, but your current job doesn't give you any DevOps experience. So how do you do it? What DevOps topics do you learn? What proof of concepts do you do to show them as real world projects? How do you add them to your resume? In this video, we are going to learn all these things. But first things first, what makes me the right person to talk about this? Because I went through the same journey. I used to work in legacy mainframe technology projects. I learned cloud and DevOps and switched career. I am not a genius guy. I'm just an average person working in IT with a full-time job, family, kid, and a funny accent. I want to be the agent of change in your life so you can switch your career as well. So I have a separate video showing my entire career journey, starting with a no IT background to mainframe, and then how I switched from mainframe to cloud and DevOps in a separate video. So check it out if interested. I'll give the link up top. With that being said, let's jump in. So let's start with the biggest mistake. I did a little bit of this myself, and I see a lot of you do this as well, which is trying to learn everything. So when you Google DevOps, a lot of shiny things come up, such as Chef, Puppet, Ansible, different tools like Jenkins, GitLab, Argo CI/CD, Spinnaker, Rancher, etc. There is no way you can learn all this, and that is not the expectation in an interview as well. If you think about any other skill that you learn in your life, such as swimming, mathematics, guitar, bodybuilding, you do not start learning 20 different things when you try to master those things. Let's say you are trying to lose weight and gain muscle. You do not start with 100 different cardio exercises, right? You pick 2 or 3 and then you do those. Similarly, for DevOps as well, you need to put laser focus on the critical areas and ignore the noise. So let's talk about what things should you learn as a DevOps architect or engineer. I divided the topics into 3 broad categories. The first category is must-have. If you are going for a DevOps interview or you started working in a DevOps real-world project, you must know this topic. The second category is highly recommended. So if you learn these topics, it increases your chance of getting the job, and it kind of separates you from the other folks. The last category is low return, where these topics you will probably not be asked in an interview, and they are not broadly used in every project. So when you are going for a DevOps job, especially if you are already in a full-time job and you are not like a student with a lot of time, you have to focus on topics that's gonna get you through the DevOps interview and give you a solid foundation where you can start working on a DevOps project. You must know at least one infrastructure as code language. So if you are working in AWS, you can choose CloudFormation, or you are working in Azure, GCP, you can choose respectively, or you can learn Terraform. Next, you must know how to work with Git commands. So you don't need to be the master of all Git commands, but at least you need to know the basic ones, how to check in, check out, fork, branch, etc. Next, you need to know at least one DevOps service, and you need to know it well. So you can either pick cloud specific. So if you are working in Azure, GCP, AWS, you can learn their DevOps service. So for example, if you are working in AWS or if you are going for AWS jobs, you can learn AWS code build, code commit, code pipeline, or you can learn Jenkins or GitLab. Moving on to the highly recommended part, you should know how to create and implement DevOps pipelines. your pipeline should be able to implement softwares or packages into virtual machine as well as in a microservices design. You should know at least two of these relevant technologies. So virtual machine is kind of default now. Everyone knows about virtual machine. So you should know either container or serverless, ideally both. And you should have a cloud certification. For AWS, you can pick CSOPS Associate or DevOps Pro certification, and for the other clouds, you can pick accordingly. You could also have the Jenkins certification or Terraform certification. Now on the low return stuff, we have corner case DevOps services, such as Elastic Beanstalk, Ansible, Chef, Puppet, etc. Only do this if you have time. So what topics did I study? So I personally studied CloudFormation, and then I did the Git commands, and then I started with Jenkins. So Jenkins is a very, very popular DevOps tool. Even 10 years down the line, it's still king of the hill. For DevOps pipeline, I just learned how to do VM. But remember, I started my journey like 5-6 years back. So virtual machine was the only thing that was very important around that time. Under relevant technology, I actually learned serverless after I learned virtual machine. But today, judging by the market cap, if I were you, I would do container. Under the cloud certifications, I did Solutions Architect Associate, then I got my Solutions Architect Pro after I worked for a couple years in the technology. And I did not learn any corner case DevOps services going to the interview. I learned Ansible when I got the job, and in that project, Ansible was being used. Alright, so moving on. So I get this question a lot. Raj, what proof of concepts should I do on DevOps that will help me or count as real-world experience? So let's dive in. So first things first, you should absolutely know how to provision cloud infrastructure using DevOps. You should implement a couple of pipelines using CloudFormation or Terraform where you can spin up EC2s, Kubernetes clusters, serverless, etc. So this is a must-have POC to do. Second, you should also know how to deploy applications to virtual machines, such as on EC2s, GCP instances, etc. And third, you should know how to deploy applications to Kubernetes cluster. The deploying application to serverless is a stretch goal right now, so it's like optional. And when you are doing these DevOps pipelines, you need to cover the following things that I'm going to show you guys and girls to count as real-world experience. So you have to do as many as you can from below. So you have to implement automated testing. So you need to know when you change the code and the code gets checked out, gets packaged and deployed, how to run automated testing, either for virtual machines or serverless or container. You got the idea. Same concept on how to do automated rollback if one of the automated testing fail, how to do selective deployment, like how do you deploy packages into particular EC2 instances and ignore others, how to do canary and rolling deployment, how to implement from one shared account to multiple business accounts. You need to know how to implement manual approval on those DevOps pipeline and how to do security checks. Now, if I have to pick 3 that you must do in your pipeline, you should know how to do security checks. You should know how to do canary or rolling deployment, especially rolling deployment, which is used a lot in real-world applications, and you should know how to do automated testing. Now, this might sound really overwhelming, but this is the saving grace. you do not need to create one mega pipeline with all of this. Because remember, the interviewer is not asking you to show you the whole pipeline that you did. The interviewer is asking that you know these components and you know how to implement it in a pipeline. So you can do separate components. Like you can do one small pipeline where you do automated testing. Like whenever a new, let's say, Lambda code comes in, you know how to run testing for that. Same thing for container. You know how to run security checks, and you have a small pipeline to check security. So that's what I did. So in this way, you are testing out each concept. Which brings me to the next section, which is equally important. Whatever proof of concepts you are doing, save those components such as build spec file or Jenkins file in your personal GitHub. Do not just copy paste from other folks blindly, because you won't be able to explain it. Like the problem with like a program or like a build spec Jenkins files is, unless you did it, it is very difficult to explain what the other folks did, right? So let me show you mine. Let me show you what I did, right? Like I said, this is from my real world experience. I'm not just some guru just showing you some stuff. So this is my personal GitHub. So when I was doing EKS, you can see I saved my EKS DevOps Flow 1. I saved my build spec, the Kubernetes YAML file, role policy, etc. in my personal GitHub page. So during the interview, or when the recruiter reached out, and the recruiter a lot of times will ask, hey, do you have any GitHub page? Or sometimes I will say that, hey, I did a lot of stuff in DevOps. You can go to my GitHub page and check it out. And I actually include my GitHub page in my resume. Same thing for Lambda. I deployed a pipeline, and then I saved the build spec and the Lambda function here, so I can easily explain, and this also gives some legitimacy to my experience. And another thing which is important and which helped me as well is publish LinkedIn article explaining what you did. So if I go back to my LinkedIn profile, so you can see I published this article like 3 years back now, Lambda CI/CD pipeline using AWS code build. So people still check out this article. So this article has 74 likes and 5 comments, including some comments from people from AWS, right? So this helps a lot. So in this article, I went over step by step how to deploy a Lambda using AWS's code pipeline, and what advantage does it give over Jenkins. So you should do that as well. Like, of course, don't just copy paste an existing article and just change couple things. Maybe you implement automated testing for your Go application running on container or on Lambda, right? So, and you created the Jenkins files or the build spec file. Feel free to create an article with the screenshot and how to do it so that it helps other people. So this is a very, very valuable thing. So recruiters always check your LinkedIn profile, and if they see that, okay, you did some hands-on stuff that is used in real-world projects, that definitely helps you get the interview. And once you follow those, once you do those real-world DevOps components, like we mentioned, security check, automated testing, deploying into container, VM, etc., you can add those to your resume, either LinkedIn or your Microsoft Word resume, because at this point, you know how a real-world applications work. And I think this is a good segue to talk about some of the courses that I have, if you are interested. So I do have a Kubernetes course that starts from basic, like if you have no container knowledge whatsoever, this course teaches you basic container stuff, basic Docker stuff, and then goes into Kubernetes and how to deploy your applications on Kubernetes along with DevOps. It's in Udemy. I'll give you the link in the description with some coupon code. Feel free to check it out. It has some good reviews as well. I also have a separate course on infrastructure as code, specifically AWS CloudFormation, CDK, along with DevOps and interview guide. And I also have a serverless course which is pretty highly rated. Link for all those courses are given in the description. Alright guys and girls, so if you found this video helpful, if you learned something new, please click that like button. Smash it if that's something you are into. It really helps YouTube algorithm. So once you click that like button, it recommends this video to other viewers like you. Click subscribe, help this channel grow. Also let me know of any questions on this topic, right? I generally check all your questions and then try to answer them. With that, that's all for this video. I'll see you guys and girls in the next video. Bye.